Hello, my name is Michael Neff. I'm the director of Gears Golf, and today we're going to do a short video on basic navigation of the Gears software. After you double click the icon on your desktop, you can go ahead and hit start, and basically this is what shows up. You have lots of different options of being able to select players or select different views or change or replay the swing back at the pace or the place that you want to during the swing. The mouse is kind of interesting. You right click and hold down the mouse to be able to move the image around. You press down on the scroll key on the scroll button to basically pan, and so it's just right click on the mouse for moving the image around, and press down on the scroll pad to zoom in, the scroll key to zoom in, and press down and hold and then move for panning. We'll just kind of go back to face on. So let's say here this is demo mode. That's what it defaults at, but we want to select a player, and there's a couple different ways you can get to that. My recommendation is that everybody just kind of go off of this panel right here. If you want to do a new player, this is where you input the new player's information. If you wanted to change a player session or to pick up an old player, a player that you've already seen before, this is where you would go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and type the name of the player, or you can simply just pick one. I'm going to actually pick Curtis Thompson. Curtis is playing on the web.com tour and playing a couple tour events, PGA tour events, and I really like his golf swing a lot. This is basically where if Curtis was here, if I wanted to start a new session with him, I would just double click this to start a new session. This is the new panel where I can go and edit, and I can delete him if I want. Just double click that to not edit it. And here it shows us the date at which we did it, how many shots, whether drivers, putters, irons, or wedges. We just hit drivers that day. And I favorited one of them, so I picked one that I really liked. And then this shows me here if it was full body or club only, and this shows me how many swings I did. I'll double click this. So these are all of his swings, and you'll see that I have one that's favorited. If I did put notes down or type in some notes like, hey, I had him feel more flexion in his left wrist on this one, that's where you would see this show up. But let's go ahead and just double click that, and then you'll see the avatar come up. So this is Curtis Thompson. I can zoom in again with the scroll pad, and what you'll see here is this little inspector panel, right? So you have this thing's called the eye. We call it the inspector panel. And these are all the basic club data, body data, and visuals. So up here you'll see three panels. One is for the body data, one is for the club data, and then one allows you to click different visuals and click them on and off for whatever it is you want to measure. Well, let's start off with club here. Curtis basically hit this ball very close to the center. This is in millimeters of how far off of the center it was. This is the club path. This was the actual club that he was using. That club was calibrated, and we'll go into calibration in another video. But all these most of these metrics are at touch. Some are at center. But club path that's the angle or the path at which the club is going in relation to the target. This is angle of attack. That's at touch. That's at touch. And face to path is at touch. Face is slightly open to the path. The closure rate you will not see until the downswing. The closure rate is in relation to the path, the face angle to the path. And that basically only starts working from the downswing to impact. So we'll go to impact on this swing. If I can just double click this. You'll also see that there's two different measuring points here. So for speed, we have impact at touch, or excuse me, yeah, this is at touch. And then we have it at the center, and you'll see it's slightly different. This ball was hit really close to the center. But these numbers are different because we have bulge and roll in the software. So when you calibrate the golf club, you put how much bulge and roll the club had. And when you calibrate the golf club with the face jig, that's how we're able to capture that. You'll also see here, so you have touch and center. You'll also see ratio to grip speed. And there's your grip speed down here under shaft, and so there's your club head speed to grip speed, and that's the ratio. We'll go into that more in detail on what numbers or what we're looking for on a different video. This gives you the loft at touch, and then you'll also see the loft at center. And these two numbers are really close to each other because the shot was hit very close to the center. And then it gives you the actual loft of the club. And then it gives you what's called the spin loft. And this is the difference between the dynamic loft at touch and the angle of attack at touch. Lie angle. Lie angle basically gives you the lie of the golf club at touch, and this is the actual lie of the golf club, the static lie. And then face angle, that is the face angle at touch, and that's the face angle at center. Again, these are two very similar things, but you'll notice that this is how you will be able to really easily explain to your students what gear effect is. This is the shaft data. This is how fast the grip speed is. Okay, that's basically updated through time. You'll see that these numbers are all updating as in real time as the swing is happening. So at touch, you just double click impact to actually get it to the impact frame. Grip speed is 20 miles per hour. Grip roll, this is how fast, this is how many degrees per second the grip is rolling. This right here is twist. That's shaft twist. That's the actual twisting of the shaft. This is the shaft kick. Shaft kick is basically the acceleration of the deflection, or it's how much the shaft is accelerating at impact. Not necessarily the speed, but how much it's accelerating. And then deflection is how many in millimeters. That's 27 millimeters. You can see here if you kind of scroll in here. That's how much, if I were to draw a straight line, Visuals has this thing called shaft deflection line. So if you look down here, basically it's how many millimeters of deflection the golf club has in relation to the center of the shaft. We know where the center of the shaft is because when we calibrate the golf club, there are calibration jigs that go on the shaft that tell us where the center is. Droop is the amount of droop the club gets. That's also in millimeters. And then we also give you a ratio there. That's the difference between the two. And we'll go into more of that, more detail. We actually give ball data. It is a calculation. It's not too bad. We actually, we just go off of TrackMan, Foresight, GC2 as our measurement, against our ball data. We basically know where the ball is. We know where the ball's touching on the face. We know how fast the club is going. We know all the loft. And we built an algorithm to give ball data. And it is a calculation. There's no ball measurement being made. So you can turn that on or off if you want. And again, down here is notes. If I wanted to make notes, hey, I really like this swing or whatever, this is where you would put them. And that will show up when you look for whatever swing it is. Okay. If we go to body data here, we'll kind of scroll back here. This is basically, you'll see that I'll take this shaft deflection shaft off here. The body data is basically gives you projection lines. These right here are called these are projection angles. And if we look at body lines and overlays, basically what you'll see here is this is basically the virtual spine in relation to the XYZ coordinates of the room. So 90 degrees would be straight up and down, 0 degrees would be this direction. And you'll see here in the body lines that these will correlate under body. They'll correlate, these numbers right here will correlate with these numbers right here. Now when you change views, okay, if I go down the line, that's a different axis, so those numbers will change, and you have to scroll the image for those to update correctly, okay? So keep that in mind. Obviously we have a kinematic sequence measurement. There's graphs down here that show all the club graphs and the body graphs. Here's your sequence graph. You can click that to bring that up. Here's basically your body line graph. And down here at the bottom you can scroll to see all these different graphs, and the same for the club graphs. You can just scroll to see the different club graphs. Okay. Wrist angles, wrist cock, that is basically the measurement from the wrist marker that's on the wrist to the shaft, and in relation to the left arm. That's basically, you know, if I come down here, you know, if I wanted to show like 102 degrees, it's basically the angle. You see my mouse here. It's the angle between the shaft and that wrist marker. We also have flexion and extension. The flexion you'll see is in positive. If it's in, what's kind of interesting about this is that for the left wrist right now, he's in extension right now, meaning that the wrist is kind of cupped towards the forearm, and that shows up as a positive number. So actually flexion, if he ever does get to flexion, it goes negative. Let's see, where is he ever in flexion? Yeah, like right here, the wrist is bowed slightly, and you'll see flexion being a negative number. Extension is a positive number for both left and right. Pronation and supination is basically how much, and that is, again, that's off of the markers from the elbows to the wrists to the club. That's where we get the pronation and the supination for both hands. Again, that's basically how much the forearms are rolling. Joint angles is basically for ankles, it's adduction, deduction. For the knees, it's flexion and extension. For the hips, it's flexion and extension. For the elbows, it's flexion and extension. If you want to get the torso and the hip, you would simply go here, take body lines off, and you would click either lateral tilt or frontal bend and draw lines through the body. Okay? And what that does is it gives you just a visual of the torso and the hips in relation to each other. And you'll see that that number updates over time. So if I want to see basically, you know, lateral tilt, I'm going to be viewing that from face on. So this would be his torso, excuse me, this would be his hip line of negative 11.5 degrees and his torso being 2 degrees. If I look down the line, you'll see that it makes a lot more sense here that the frontal bend is what we'd be looking for. Okay, that's the hips and the torso, this being at 33 degrees, this being at 12 degrees. That's what the lateral tilt and frontal bend are for. If you want to see them through the body, okay, you would simply click this draw lines for the body. It's hard to see them unless you do that, okay, but you can basically hit that. Line overlays is really only for body lines, and it allows you to basically overlay the data on top of that. Right now I have drawing the lines through the bodies, or I can just simply take that off. If I go back to face on here, I'm going to go through some of these visuals here. I'll take these off. Transparency just allows you to kind of ghost the image back and forth. It's very helpful when you're doing comparisons to show before and after. You would ghost one and not the other. You can just take that off if you don't want it. Again, body lines are the projection lines in relation to the XYZ coordinates of the room. Overlays actually puts the number on top of them. If you want to draw lines through the body, it just basically draws a line through the joint centers. X factor is basically the torso against the hip, and if you want to see the numbers there, you simply click line overlays and it gives you the differential. You know, obviously that will change depending on what view you're looking at. Most of the guys look at it from here. This is basically his X factor, 81 degrees differential between the hips and the shoulders. Sightline is a pretty cool tool. It basically just draws a line right out where the marker is on the hat. I've hidden the markers here so that they're not visible, but this basically just goes right, it will go right through the middle of the hat, and it's assuming that you put the hat on straight, that's going to represent basically your sight line. Pretty helpful for lots of different measurements, including putting. Ball position line is just basically it draws a line from where the ball position is. Posture line, this is a good tool to be able to see kind of how much you're moving or swaying or turning. I really like using ball posture line. It's kind of an important tool for down the line as well, or the ball position line, for a lot of different things. Head bubble is just that. Basically draws a bubble at address, and you can basically visually see where the head is in relation to that bubble. And you can kind of see where the head movement is. Shoulder plane is best viewed from down the line or from the target. Okay, so shoulder plane is, we'll go back to address here. Shoulder plane, elbow plane, vertical plane, and if you want the shaft plane, you come down here, and that basically goes off the center of the head, not the shaft. The center of the where we put the calibration jig, the face center. And so these are some tools for you to basically visualize instead of, because we don't allow you to draw on the tools or draw on in the software just yet. That's what we use those for. And then pelvis center is a really good, really popular tool that we have. A lot of guys use it with the ball position line. And as you can see, the pelvis center here, you can see this little white line before. That basically is going to give you how much your pelvis moves front to back. And if you look at it from above, you'll, from above, if you kind of pan and scroll down, there's basically your pelvis trace. Okay, that's the center of the pelvis trace. And as you can see, you'll be able to see where it's at in relation to the ball. And I like to do that. So if you want to see face on, you can see what that is from this angle. That white line gives you, that's how much his pelvis moves. And you'll see where it is in relation to the ball. Again, I'll do lots of videos on what most of the tour players do and what you should be looking for. This is simply a tutorial to know how to operate the software. Okay, and so that's pelvis center. That's a really good tool for pelvis trace and be able to see where your body motion is. Okay, so let's go back down here to impact. I'll just double click that. And if I click on impact vectors, that's basically, this is just like a little visual, a little D-plane visual, if you will, of the loft and the angle of attack. The loft is also the face angle, and the angle of attack is also the path. So you'll see it gives us, that's what the numbers are at touch. If you want to take those off and you want to put club head vectors on, you can actually see the real-time numbers as they'll go here. And you'll see that they're updating as we go. So right here, roughly what 8 to 10 inches behind the golf ball, the angle of attack is 4.65 degrees up. Then negative would be down, positive would be up. Oh, sorry, that was a negative. My bad. I didn't look close enough. So yes, he's going to be down here, and then it's going to start moving its way up. So if you want to get to the low point, you just simply scroll, and this is where the low point is in relation to the ball. That's a new metric that we're going to be adding right in here. You'll see distance to low point from the front of the ball. But one of the nice things about the tools, if you go from above, you can really kind of see the face to path relationship. So as you scroll this through, you'll see the loft. And if you want to put on here face angle, you can see the face angle and the loft. And those two are, the same thing. That's giving you the loft, that's giving you the face angle. This is the path. So at low point, which was right about in here for him, the path is 3.75 inside to out. Most of you that use TrackMan or Flight Scope know that's the horizontal swing plane, or the club path, or the I think that's the what they define as club path at low point. And then if you go face on, again, you can kind of scroll up and you can kind of scroll it down. Yeah, that's where the angle of attack is at 0. And what's kind of important, what's really great about gears is, as you see this, I can really slow this down, and you can kind of see where this was a very centered shot, but you can really see that the club interaction with, you can see all these numbers change, and the club really doesn't move that much because the ball was hit in the center. But on toe hits, you'll see that impact does change as we come through. That does change the loft. The touch, the ball is gone at this point, but the angle of attack is affected by touch, even though the ball is gone. But we're actually able to, you can really scroll this down and measure it really carefully. And there's basically your spin loft. That's the difference between the two there. And then if you look from above, there's the difference between the face and the path. And again, if you want to go all the way back to touch, you just go ahead and double click that, and that'll make sure that you get that to touch. So this was a slight little cut here that he hit. So that's club head vectors. That basically allows you to really see the live D plane in real time. It's a really effective tool for instruction and club fitting. Club head path is basically just that. It's a trace of the club head. Very effective tool from all these different angles to be able to see where the arc kind of happens, and where that's all happening. And then you can also click hand path, and you can see the hand path with the club head path, or you can see them separately. If you go down the line, you can see Curtis has a very pretty circular. That hand path is pretty close on the backswing to the downswing. And what I really like to do is I like to see what the wrist angles are doing here at this point. I want to see how much flexion or extension the player has at this point. Right now he's got 12 degrees of extension, and the face is pretty neutral right here. So chances are this is kind of setting up for a little bit of a cut. Jonas Blixt has like 20 degrees of flexion right here, and the face is a lot more closed. And that's obviously going to have, just gives you an idea of what you're after. But that's the hand path. Swing planes is basically just a visual tool to kind of show the swing plane, the actual changing of the plane. This basically shows you that the plane basically is constantly changing. Shaft plane is like before, just it's from the center of the at the address position at the center of the club through the end of the shaft. Shaft deflection line is a great tool to show what the shaft is doing. If you wanted to see from above, this would, it's kind of a great tool. So you can see that the club is in a little bit of lag deflection right now. And as it starts to move out, you're going to start to see it go. It's going to start to get into lead. And this is a great visual tool for you to be able to show your students like kind of what's happening with the shaft. And again, Gears measures shaft deflection and droop and twist, and this is a great tool for you to be able to illustrate to your students like really what's happening to the shaft and how much it's bending. Shaft extension line is just a line that goes through the end of the shaft, which a lot of teachers like to use for visuals of where the club needs to be pointing, coming down and through. Okay. Face angle line is just that. It's just it's a representation of the face angle, not the leading edge. If any of you have been to any of my seminars, you'll know that that's my number one thing I want you to remember. That face, that actually represents the middle of the face, not the leading edge. And then target line, this is just basically a visual that gives you reference to wherever the target line is. And then pinwheels is just kind of a visual. I don't know how valuable that is, but it kind of gives you an image of maybe what the hub path is doing, or the club head path is doing. This is basically the raw data coming through. And then raw frames, like I said before, is a visual of all 360 frames per second in this case. And as you know how Gears works is we find the ball, we're assuming a legal ball, of course, but we find the ball, we find the center of the ball, and then we insert a frame at the front of that ball, and that is our known frame. And so we know where the front of the ball is, and we know where the front of the club is when we do calibration, and therefore we know where the front of the ball is, we know where the front of the club is, and that's why our metrics are so accurate and all tested at 20,000 frames per second Phantom camera. So that's basically a basic little tutorial of how to kind of work through the software. The one last thing I wanted to show you was if I wanted to, get rid of, or if I wanted to, excuse me here, if I wanted to bring up another player, I would just come over here and double click this. And let's say I want to bring up, I don't know, let's pick somebody. I'm trying to find somebody that's kind of like him. We'll pick, well, not kind of like him, but we'll just, I don't know, for sake of argument, we'll pick Ian Poulter here. So as you double click, that's basically Let me get rid of that here. Click back to metrics. I'm going to click off that visual right there. That's how you basically get to 2 players, and it allows you to show them inline, side by side, or overlaid on top of each other. Down here you have your timelines. You can work them separately, individually, to get them to keyframes. If you want to get them to keyframes like the transition position at the same time, just go ahead and double click that position, and that gets them both to that transition. If you want to take them both at the same time, you grab this little diamond right here and you basically just move the diamond, and it will take them, it'll kind of scroll them both at the same time. They have different timing of their swings, and that's why they're not linked up perfectly. But if I wanted to get them both at the same position, I could do that just individually like this, or I can sync them both to impact. And the blue is going to reference over here to this side, the comparison, and the yellow or gold player is always going to be the original player here. This right here allows you to take a screenshot if you want. That shows up in this little snapshots area, and you can click that and you can email it or put it on a thumb drive. Obviously this is your summary page, where this is Curtis's driver summary, where you're hitting the ball. Pretty sweet. It's a great pattern here. And then to quit gears, let me show you settings real quick. You can come down here. For those of you who are operating the system, this is where you would add more clubs or manage which clubs you want to use. If you wanted to calibrate the system, you can do that from here or from the beginning. And then settings here, we'll go through another video that will give you a tutorial of all the settings and what you would need to do for that. And that's how that all works. If you want to delete a swing, that's right there. And then if I was connected to a system right now and I wanted to hit a new swing, I would just hit plus, and then you would see a little red button here, and that's how you find the ball and start a capture. Anyways, you want to get rid of the player, you simply click that on, or if you want to bring him back, you click that off, or click that on, click it off to get back to your original player. Anyways, that's the first basic video that we're going to do, overview on Gears software, the navigation of it, and hopefully that answers some of your questions. And feel free to call me at 503-449-0084 or email me at MichaelNeff3D@gmail.com with any questions. Thank you very much.